In this section, we'll talk about one of the key tools in the product manager's toolkit, the product lifecycle. So the product lifecycle is a concept that describes the stages of a new product idea, from its introduction to its decline for a market. So this concept lets us understand and predict what we should do to market a product based on how that product and all the firms and other supporting people and groups surrounding it is a part of society. So why do we care? What's going on here? Well, certain products are more new to the market than others in terms of the extent our society has adopted them. So how new a product category is to the market means we're more likely to see certain customer and competitive conditions. This will guide things like how much we need to teach the market about the product, how many suppliers are out there that we can rely on, what prices are customers willing to pay, what types of promotions need to be done, how powerful the competitors may be. So what this covers is product very broadly. So it can be used to analyze a brand, a product form, or a product category. So for example, the book studies the adoption of fax machines. You can also talk about many other types of products, including DVD players, clothing styles, services, and soft drinks. It could be a size even, such as how tiny plastic water bottles are a significant product category for many customers. And so how specific do we get? Well, you can drill down into the specific brand, Pepsi, or a specific product, Crystal Pepsi. However, the PLC works better for product categories. So if you say something like soda or 12-ounce can soda, after all, introducing a new cherry flavor version of soda is not so hard for customers and retailers or other channel partners to understand, adopt, or accept, as compared to activities required to drive acceptance for, say, a really super new brand new category. So notice how some products like those 3D printed shoes or the Lexus hoverboard over here are a lot newer to the market. Meanwhile, something like deep fried butter, increasingly known in the fair markets. And then keep going, cars and pencils are well accepted where there aren't many new markets that they haven't already tried. Finally, some products are effectively out of sight, such as this long list of discontinued Google and Ben & Jerry's products. Many products in decline, as we'll call them, are still around. For example, audio records and Cooper services, so barrel makers, are not as common. Instead, they're on new product life cycles based on the more specialized value they provide than they had been in the past. So you can imagine that a lot of the same physical parts, but new product concept and therefore new product life cycle. So in sum, the product life cycle is a general way we can understand a product based on its introduction to a market to its decline. And it's pretty useful for us. Our marketing mix usually changes throughout the product life cycle in response to changes in customer needs or attitudes, repositioning of the product, or changes in the competitive structure of the industry. So these are the 4 stages. We've got introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. So this red line here, total industry, they say revenue, sometimes we say sales. So effectively, sales start out very low in market introduction, increase to their peak in market maturity, and then decline. Blue line, profits change as well, but not quite in tandem with sales. You can see how industry profits start to decline, even as technically revenue and sales continues to be higher. So in decline, you might see profits go down to 0, or perhaps just hover and linger depending on what your firm does at that stage. So the product life cycle is meant to reflect the overall market, and usually not in individual firms, but we still sometimes use it for individual products, so just be careful with that. So let's go over each stage. So in the market introduction stage, the idea is effectively introduced to the market. In this stage, we see customer awareness is low, costs are very high. You don't have efficiencies in promotion or distribution. It takes money to market this product, and you're still recouping development costs. We also see very low sales. Customers are still getting to know you and learn that they have this need and they want to address the need in this particular way. So big emphasis is that we want to increase customer awareness and trial, and we see therefore promotions tend to center on education, which again takes time, so revenue is low. But again, big idea, big goal is we're increasing customer awareness and trial. So let's highlight why costs are high. So costs are high because promotional expenses are very high because customers, again, need to be educated about the product and its benefits. And we often have to rely on the more costly promotional types like personal selling. Place expenses are high because dealers can extract more from us because we're higher risk and have less negotiating power. And if we need effectively, costs are high because customers need incentives to try out the product, and those are costly. And finally, production costs are high because they're just starting out, and so we're often making smaller batches, we don't have efficiencies, and especially compared to, say, if you're just making a small product line extension, we're pretty much doing a lot of things from scratch, and a lot of people, again, don't have that confidence in us yet. So let's look at some examples. In this ad, Procter & Gamble introduced ThermaCare pain relief pads. So heating pads are not new, but the new product concept is that the heating pad gives both pain relief and is conveniently disposable, mobile, and relatively discreet. This ad even includes a little coupon to encourage customers to try it out and explains where to look for it in the store. Other examples, we see that this stage can include both more continuous innovation products like that, again, that new heating pad, and very new discontinuous ones like algae-based imitation shrimp or Google Glass over here. You can see this example for Open Bionics, that prosthetics aren't new, but the idea of maybe having one customized with designs kids might like and feel empowered by is. So in sum, the first stage of the product life cycle is the introduction. The main goal is to educate, set up the mix, and get people using it. In the market growth stage, we see the market grow because more players enter, customers, competitors, and related industry partners. Industry sales tend to grow fast while industry profits rise, but then they do start to fall. So in this stage, again, sales grow because they come from having more total customers, both new and repeat. Sales growth comes from more total purchases in general, for both new and repeat purchases. We also get more competitors that take interest and enter the market, and promotional messages start to focus on particular brands, not just the general idea. So, major goal, you need to differentiate your product. You want to convert customers to your particular brand. So let's highlight those competitive growth patterns. In this stage, we talked about how more competitors enter the market. It's usually in response because they see those one or two innovators, the early company or companies, seeing profits now. Woo! You'll see competitors copy innovators, try to introduce improvements. They'll focus on a slightly different target market, or even just lower the price if they can. Therefore, again, we see sales grow because there are more firms in general serving that market. Large companies also, we'll see, will acquire small pioneering firms. And again, profits rise rapidly, peak, and then begin declining as competition increases. This leads to aggressive brand advertising where the messages stress the differences between brands. And so, effectively, don't just try any old product, try our product. So again, key strategy, promoting your brand, not just the product category, while still adding new customers to the total market. So in the introduction stage, we were just trying to get people to adapt the idea of the category, but now in the growth stage, we're saying, pick our brand. So not just any e-reader, rideshare, or smart home device, but our brand. So you'll see, say, escape rooms are in the market growth stage. They share ideas and promote each other, but particular locations are also building their own reputations for their own use of theme, technology, or even having live performers with you. So in sum, market growth is the second stage, and the key is stressing your brand and your firm versus the overall product category. So I really want to stress this. These two terms underlie why we start by promoting the general product and then switch to advertising our brand instead. So primary demand, desire for the general product class or category. Selective, sometimes called secondary demand, desire for a particular brand or offering. So primary demand, should I shop at the grocery store? Selective demand, should I shop at Albertsons or Trader Joe's today? So again, at first, primary demand is key because we just need them to choose the product category itself. However, as the market grows and competitors emerge, then we have a sufficient number of customers that have accepted the idea and our value. So we can focus on that secondary, selective demand, where your promotions stress your particular offering over competitors. And so now you know a key reason why we see toilet paper ads. So if you counter a proverbial smarty pants, the toilet paper companies are trying to fuel selective demand. Uber and Lyft. When Uber and Lyft first began, they both worked to promote their kind of ride services and sharing as a concept. Today, they largely focus on promoting their own brands. Then again, occasional articles about bad blood between them remains useful to promote the category, and I'm sure there's something to be said about how many drivers will work for both. So in sum, primary and selective demand are two types. The need for selective demand is usually less important at first, but becomes more important as competitors arrive and customers choose from all these different groups. And, of course, as customers have that experience and general value, they can actually pick amongst you. Next, here are two pricing strategies that you may wish to consider as you enter and start growing in the market. So first is skimming, high relative starting price, and you later lower prices over time. That captures a smaller total market, but you get more money per person. So again, high relative starting price, prices lowered over time, you capture a smaller total market, but more money per person. This is a good strategy when you have unique points of difference and customers differentiate you. So because of the way customers value your product, it's better to select a purposely higher price and not necessarily serve everyone immediately. That way you capture more potential revenue per person. So for example, for readers ready for the next book in the series or a book from an inspiring public figure, there's no real substitute. So the publisher can start with a high price because you have all of these customers willing to pay that price premium. You can then eventually lower the price of the book to sell to customers that were less willing to pay the higher price the high value customers did. You may not sell to those lower price customers immediately, but that's okay. They get a lower price book more in line with their willingness to pay, and you capture more revenue from those who place a higher value on that book. So this works as well with clothing. So clothing lines may only be good for a season. The prices will start relatively high, but effectively they'll be reduced as time goes on. The presumption is those who really want that garment wanted it immediately and therefore buy at the higher price. Then you can lower it to get the customers who were a bit interested but not at the original price point. Keep in mind that yes, customers may anticipate price reductions, so you do need to plan for that and make sure you adjust the earlier prices, which affects whether that high value customer decides it's worth it to wait. Penetration pricing is the other. So this is where you have a low relative starting price to capture a larger share of the market. This is a good strategy when there are benefits to commanding a larger market share or selling in volume. So for example, it may be a product where there's more value when more people or all your friends are using it, such as asking or knowing businesses have a telephone or your friends are all on this one social media site. Video game console makers often like to do this because it encourages game developers to make games for them. So it's less risky for the developers to make games when they know there's a large market of potential buyers. Your early success may also encourage more distributors to give you more favorable terms because of your market power. So IKEA does a bit of both. For IKEA, focusing on a lower price point for market share is very useful since they're very good at volume. And when customers buy one piece, it's more likely they'll like the style and buy more. Meanwhile, IKEA also does some price skimming where they do actually lower product prices over time too for certain items. It's all part of managing their whole product mix. And in general, sometimes we see that too, where they're effectively managing their product life cycle. In sum, just two ways for you to consider how not all products enter the market in the same way. Through pricing, we can affect how quickly we are adopted. It's not all about getting the most people, but the most people of the particular target market you desire. So the third stage is the market maturity stage. Sales level off and competition continues to increase as the market reaches saturation. This is often the longest stage, and most products we use every day are effectively mature products. Ultimately, at this stage, you, the marketer, are trying to make sure your offering is superior in the eyes of the customer to ensure that your market share remains the same. So in general, market saturation means it's really difficult and costly at this stage to get new people because there aren't many people left. You only grow market share by getting people to switch from another product or brand, and that can be very expensive. And in general, customers are pretty knowledgeable about this category, so you have to have compelling value. So they effectively have that experience and general quality sense. And it's bad because effectively they tend to see brands as pretty similar to each other. And when they think everyone's largely the same, that makes them price sensitive. So they're more likely to go, oh, what's cheaper for the band of quality I like? So they're more willing to seek the lowest price since effectively if one's as good as the other, you just pick the cheapest one of those category. Most firms at this point tend to drop out and it's rare to get new firms. And so your strategy, if you're going to stay in this, is that you're trying to be highly targeted and well-defined segments and differentiating from competitors. We see heavy use of promotion to maintain market share and sometimes draw in other customers. Product changes tend to be incremental and supplementary. So annual models may appear during the maturity stage for shopping and specialty products. Product lines that are lengthened to appeal to additional segments. You'll see things like service, repair, and other secondary value. And so let's see. Example, Satisfries. So this was Burger King's attempt at healthier French fries, and it failed, but fast food and French fry markets in general continue on in that maturity phase. So in sum, at the market maturity stage, the market has reached saturation, and your goal is to keep your customers and steal away other customers when you can. The market isn't likely getting much bigger, and keep that competitive advantage to keep your customers. It is the longest lived stage, and you just gotta differentiate. The final stage is the decline stage. New products replace older ones, and older ones are phased out. The rate of decline depends on how rapidly customer tastes change or substitute products are adopted. Many convenience products and fad items can lose their market overnight. So ultimately now it's a matter of how the firm is best able to take advantage of this decline. Big firms often leave the product behind. Others may treat it like a niche item. For example, records and horse-drawn carriages are not very common anymore, but they are niche goods and some companies still make them. So what do we do to abandon ship? So effectively, firms have to decide the extent they may wish to call back. So deletion is where they completely do away with selling the product. So you can imagine that after a point, the Y2K bookmakers did this. So even as a novelty, there's no real reason to serve this need when there are others more profitable. Harvest is where you minimize marketing but still sell in select outlets. So RC Cola did this by focusing on a particular region or target market instead of acting as a mega brand. So ideally what you want to do is what's called organic recognized abandonment. So you undertake periodic audits all your products and just regularly call away certain products. And they don't necessarily have to be in the decline stage. Sometimes it's just time to phase out because you could be doing something more profitable. So price competition's pretty common, and sales are primarily to the most loyal customers or to those who have waited the longest to enter the market. Strong brands may continue to be profitable though, especially if everyone else is gone and you just cut back on expenditures and lower the cost of production and marketing. You can imagine how the internet has made it really easy for customers to find folks. And again, we have issues where sometimes it's just you go for a niche. Horse-drawn carriages are still around, but just more narrow uses. So in sum, declines all happen their own way, and it heavily depends on the firm's position and the market as to what they do. Many products never quite die, it's just a matter of selecting to make profit where you want. So let's talk the strategies we may take when managing decline. So at some point, it does become necessary to discontinue different ways the product is offered, or even discontinue it entirely. This decline must weigh effectively, you have to weigh profitability against product line considerations and customer support obligations though. So as an example, companies that sold TVs stopped selling analog receiving TVs because digital TVs were now the norm, and the broadcasting industry had planned to stop actually transmitting through analog. This transition took place in 2009, which meant people either had to have a digital TV or a converter that would make the digital signals usable to analog TVs. As a bit of industry history, this was done to free up more of the spectrum for other purposes. So an important part of managing decline is figuring out when to reduce which marketing expenses. So it may be a matter of just reducing the number of retail outlets you use or the types of promotions. Sometimes it's a matter of reducing the entire product and its support. But if marketers stop selling a product too quickly, they may incur losses because of distribution and promotion expenditures they were already spent. And you also, if you pull too early, might anger customers who wanted to buy the product or still need support for their existing purchases. So Revolve was a company that sold smart home tech, where you can control things like lights, your heater, your TV. And a lot of people were tech savvy. Effectively, they're interested in the latest and greatest and willing to pay for it. So they practiced deletion, where they not only stopped selling but removed all support. So Revolve got into serious trouble with its high-paying customers who expected better service. Revolve had been bought by Google at that point, and those at Google were furious at Revolve's missteps because it made Google look uncaring to customers. Yahoo Groups also ended part of their services and had a bit of a bumpy end there too. So it's increasingly important to know when to pull support because many new products are reliant on external support, computer servers, or other services, such as how video games rely on infrastructure that lets you contact and play with other players. Or the Internet of Things devices won't be able to help or talk to you without the support networks that let them do this. Then again, some firms do continue to profit and actually to get stronger. If marketing costs are reduced in accordance with phase-out strategies, loyal customers may still continue to purchase the product, and this residual demand may still generate profit. In fact, again, so many firms may leave that if you're the only one there, you might be even more profitable because you're specializing in serving those few customers. This video, if you want to click on this one, is an example of how audio cassette tapes are still being sold and the company is more successful than ever. However, they do face unique challenges because the many firms that might support the cassette tape product market are all gone. So in sum, you just need to be strategic when leaving a market as you are or as you were when entering and growing the market. So let's wrap up this section with an optional article. So this is a set of responses from different researchers. What tech is most likely to become obsolete in your lifetime? So please note, you might not agree with the ideas, politics, or delivery, and that is okay. The idea is, what do you take from these different perspectives? And notice something interesting is science historian academics tend to have a more confrontational way they debate ideas. So most business tends to be a little more obtuse, and the words common in those groups would be fighting words compared to us. So they certainly don't mince words, but sometimes it's kind of fun to look at. But something, if you want to read the article, to think about is a text and media form. So think use, activity, and related parts, and support services and beyond. So not just the product, but the whole ecosystem of what a product is and how it comes to be, what's supporting it, and how are you going to manage it over that lifetime. So with that, ends our section on the product lifecycle introduction. Next one is some more information on how to plot it and use it for yourself. So take care, and again, email me if you have any questions.